The story begins with a boy named Soji, whose sister Akari is sick with a deadly disease, and he can't afford to pay for her treatment, so he makes rage-bait content online. He attacks another creator unprovoked, which makes everyone not like him, but he only cares about making money to save his sister. He visits Akari in the hospital, but he finds her sitting up and tells her she needs to lie down, but she notes that she's been resting all day and wonders why he didn't reply to her messages. He explains that he had to take care of something and notes that he brought her cake, but she knows that he also likes sweets, so she wonders how many of them he's had. He tells her he only had 3, but she asks for the real number, and he admits he had 6 or 7 of them. She scolds him for not sticking to his diet and decides to eat his cake as punishment, but she suddenly starts to cough, which makes him worried. She apologizes for scaring him and explains that she doesn't know what's wrong with her body, but he tells her not to lose hope, since they will visit the US for her surgery next month. She's happy to hear it, but notes that she doesn't want to be a burden on him, so he assures her that money won't be a problem because he found a great part-time job. He recalls how the orphanage's warden taught them never to hurt others, but he knows his only talent is fighting, so he can't get a decent job. He knows that people don't like him, but he doesn't care about his reputation since he's willing to burn the world to save his sister. A month later, we see people talking about Soji since he hasn't uploaded a new video, and they start to wonder if he retired. We see Soji eating a pudding, but he suddenly receives a message from Akari, and she tells him she feels better now, which makes him relieved. At night, Soji falls asleep while holding his phone, but he wakes up as he senses someone's presence, and a boy named Kuru suddenly attacks him with a hammer. Soji realizes he's trying to destroy his phone, so he grabs it and runs outside, but Kuru follows him and takes another swing. He blocks the hammer and starts to fight back, but Kuru dodges his attack and continues to target his phone. Kuru reveals that he's seen Soji's videos, and Soji thinks he must have hurt him in the past, so he apologizes for his content. He begs Kuru to spare his phone, since he needs it to contact his sister, but Kuru explains that he needs to destroy it, and tells him that Akari is already dead. We learn that a month ago, Soji watched Akari as she passed away, but he couldn't accept it, so he didn't even go to her funeral. He kept texting her, and one day she actually replies, telling him he needs to eat healthy, which made him believe she was still alive. In the present, Soji's phone starts to glitch out, and Akari appears on the screen, which makes him happy, but Kuru knocks it out of his hands and smashes it with his hammer. They're shocked since it didn't break, and Akari comes out of the phone as she thanks Soji for always protecting her, but she suddenly transforms into a monster. Kuru steps in to protect him and notes that she isn't his sister anymore, revealing that he's been talking with a ghost. Kuru explains that ghosts used to get trapped in places where people spent most of their time, but in today's world, people spend a lot of their time on their phones, so the spirits have started to appear on social media. He reveals that when a deceased person's social media account transforms into a ghost, they call it a ghost account, but since he couldn't destroy the phone in time, he now needs to fight her. He notes that physical attacks don't work against ghosts after they appear, so he drops his hammer and takes out his phone, as he explains that traditional exorcism methods won't work on digital ghosts. He takes another hammer out of his phone, as he explains that they must also digitize their spiritual power to exorcise ghosts, and he lands multiple hits on Akari, but Soji can't bear it and begs him to stop. Kuru tells him to wake up, since his sister is already dead, and explains that everyone suffers after they lose someone important to them, but they need to accept it and keep on living. Akari comes out of the phone completely, and Soji tries to calm her down, but Kuru pushes him back. She sends him flying, and traps Soji in her mouth, telling him he's helpless without her. So he recalls how his sister was always worried about him, and thinks he's the reason why she can't leave this world. But he taps into his spiritual energy, and Akari lets him go, as he finally accepts that she's gone, and Kuru is amazed as he pulls blue flames out of his phone. He realizes that Soji's powers have awakened, but the flames remind him of someone. Akari rushes at Soji, but he tells her she doesn't need to worry about him, since he'll take care of himself, and he finishes her off with his flames. After that, Kuru's friends arrive to check on him, and they're disappointed since he couldn't exorcise a weak ghost, but he tells them how Soji awakened his powers. They think it's tragic that he had to exorcise his own sister's ghost, but Kuru mentions that his flame was blue, which shocks all of them. They wonder what they should do with him, and their teacher Izaki tells them they'll take Soji to the academy. The next day, Soji wakes up and thinks it was all just a dream, but he notices Kuru in the room, so he realizes it was real. Kuru returns his phone and notes that he even charged it, but Soji can't find Akari's profile, so Kuru explains that dead accounts disappear when their ghosts are exorcised. Soji is sad that he can't even message her, but he puts on a fake smile and notes that he needs to accept her death. But Kuru knows that he's only pretending to be strong, so he reminds Kuru that he was the one who told him to let her go and continue living. Kuru takes him outside, and Soji thinks they're at a hotel, but Kuru notes that they're at a school for exorcists. Soji can't believe a school can be that fancy, so Kuru explains that it was built to look like a hot springs hotel, to emphasize how they clean the world of evil spirits. As they walk through the campus, the students start to talk about how Kuru failed his mission, and they don't like Soji because of his videos. Kuru takes him to the hot spring, and Soji notices that all his wounds have healed, but he tells himself not to relax too much, or he might break down and cry thinking about Akari. Azaki suddenly emerges from the water and introduces himself as a monk and a teacher, but Kuru tells him it isn't safe to stand up too fast in hot water since it causes their blood vessels to expand. They head inside, and Kuru notes that he has already shown Soji around the campus, but notes that he isn't comfortable being around Soji since he's a ragebaiter who uses the blue flame. He notes that he likes the school, so Azaki invites him to join them as an exorcist, and Kuru thinks Azaki is taunting him since he failed his mission. But Azaki notes that he's doing it in good faith because Soji just awakened his cyberkinesis. He can't understand what they're talking about, so Azaki explains that for centuries, exorcists have been in a constant battle against evil spirits, but everything changed after the introduction of the internet. The exorcists couldn't deal with ghost accounts using their old powers, which led to the creation of cyberkinesis, but Soji gets bored and goes to scroll on his phone. Azaki is disappointed, but Soji notes that he doesn't need to know anything about ghosts or exorcism because he just wants to return to his normal life. Soji prepares to leave, but Azaki asks him if he wants to know what really killed his sister, so Soji notes that she died because of her disease. But Azaki reveals that she was murdered by a powerful ghost account, which targets victims with a strong tie to the world. Its victims shed tears of blood just like Akari, and Soji wonders where he can find the ghost, since he wants to kill it himself, but Azaki tells him he can't do anything since he's weak. He becomes angry and charges at Azaki, but Kuru blocks his attack, and Soji notes that he'll beat Azaki to force the information out of him. Azaki tells them to calm down, and notes that if Soji defeats Kuru, he will tell him everything he knows. Kuru becomes excited, since he can finally take out his anger on Soji, and Soji charges at Azaki again, but he dodges it and starts to run away. Soji chases after him, but Kuru hits him from behind, and tells him it felt better to smash him than his sister. He becomes angry and decides to fight Kuru seriously, which draws everyone's attention, including the principal Yabami, who decides to let them carry on. As Kuru hits Soji again, he taunts him for being a ragebaiter, but Soji explains that he only did that to make money for his sister. Kuru continues to smash him, as he notes that he doesn't believe him, since there were other ways to earn money, and he thinks Soji just did it because he wants attention. Kuru multiplies his hammer and launches them at Soji, who gets knocked down, and he wonders what kind of move Kuru used to beat him. Azaki explains that it's cyberkinesis, and he teaches Soji how to draw out his weapon from his phone, but as Soji follows his instructions, a blue flame erupts from it, which shocks everyone. Azaki warns Kuru not to touch the flame, and asks Soji to show them what he can do. So he channels it into his feet to increase his speed, and charges at Kuru, but he goes right past him and falls over. Everyone's amazed by his speed, and Azaki realizes he's a fast learner, but notices that his flames are fading quickly. He channels his flames into his feet again, and charges at Kuru, who dodges his attack, but gets a cut on his cheek, so he's annoyed and starts to fight back. Everyone's impressed that Soji has improved so much in just a day, and Azaki tells another teacher named Kakiko that Soji has incredible talent, but she thinks that he should end the fight. He tells Kuru and Soji to stop, but Kuru tells him to mind his own business, and Soji thinks no one can beat him with his new powers, but Kuru increases the size of his hammer and shatters the ground. Soji is stunned, and Kuru prepares another swing, but Azaki deflects his attack, telling him he went too far. Azaki apologizes to Soji since they couldn't save Akari, and explains that he only provoked him to draw out his powers, but Soji begs them to let him join the school, so that he can become stronger. Azaki shows Soji a video of a team of exorcists who run into a ghost account during their mission, and their leader uses his phone to scan him. He realizes that the ghost is extremely dangerous, so he tells his team to fall back, but the boy kills all of them with his blue flames. Azaki tells Soji his account name is Sad Boy K, and they don't have any information about his past, but he's the most powerful enemy they've encountered so far, and Azaki reveals that he was the one who killed Akari. Soji is shocked that K has the same blue flames as him, so Azaki tells him they call it the Demon Flame, and explains that it's a cursed ability that drains the life force of anyone it touches. Soji wonders why he has the same power as K, and asks Azaki why he let him fight Kuru if he had such a dangerous ability, so Azaki tells him he just had a feeling they would both survive. Soji wonders if he would get burned by his own flames, so Azaki explains that he won't, and notes that animals don't die from their own poison. Soji wants to go home, since he needs time to process the information, but Kuru and the other students tell him he can't leave. Azaki introduces them as his students from Class B, and notes that they will be Soji's classmates, but Kuru notes that they don't want to be around him since he can kill them with his flames. A student named Renri apologizes for Kuru's rudeness, while a doll named Hiyori tells Soji that Kuru is just upset since he was able to hit him. Soji is surprised to see a talking doll, but she tells him she's also a streamer, so she thinks they should do a collab in the future. Renri takes a selfie with Soji, but another student named Naruhiko wonders how they can all be so relaxed around a demon flame user. Azaki tells Soji he needs to pass one more test before he becomes a proper exorcist, and he takes him to the training room, where he needs to fight the artificial spirits. Azaki mentions that he needs to defeat 100 artificial spirits, and explains that if he succeeds, he will be sent out into the field, where he might face K. He's determined to do whatever it takes to succeed, and the spirits charge at him, so he destroys them with his flames, but he starts to feel dizzy. Azaki tells him to check his phone's battery, since it's synced with his spiritual power, but he notices that it's at 0%, and he collapses from exhaustion. When he wakes up, he sees everyone having dinner, and Azaki tells him it was a test of endurance, but notes that he wanted Soji to experience running out of battery. Soji notices it's already late, and Azaki explains that once his battery runs out, he will be unconscious for about 5 hours, so he needs to be careful since he might die in the field. Azaki tells him his real test will be next week, but he won't get any retakes if he fails, and he'll be punished since there are people who believe he has a connection with K. Azaki tells him to rest, and notes that they will train the following day, but he's surprised to learn that he needs to share a room with Kuru. Kuru thinks he'll be upset, but he instead asks Kuru to train him, since he needs to pass the test, and he can't let his pride stop him from getting stronger, so Kuru notes that Azaki already told him to do that. The next day, Soji charges at the artificial spirits with his full power, which drains his battery, so Kuru tells him to control himself instead of going all out. He tells Soji to find something unique to him, like putting out a campfire to control his flames, but Soji isn't able to do it, and collapses after defeating 35 of the training spirits. Over the next few days, Soji continues to train, and the other students are impressed by his progress. But he still can't defeat more than 49 spirits, and they think he's doomed since he needs to defeat 100 of them. Kuru tells him he needs to think of something tangible, but he still can't do it, and decides to stress eat instead. Kuru notes that Azaki wasn't lying about the punishment, and tells Soji they will strip him to the bone, but he suddenly remembers that he left Akari's memorial picture and remains on the table. He recalls that he forgot to lock the front door, so he wants to go home, and Kuru thinks it's just an excuse for him to run away, but Soji tells him he's not running, because his only goal is to avenge Akari. The day of Soji's test arrives, and Soji starts to defeat the spirits, but he makes the same mistake, so his battery drops to nearly 30% after he defeats a few monsters. His classmates cheer for him, but Kuru starts to mock him, which shocks everyone. The ones who don't like Soji start to curse him as well, but their remarks remind him of when he first started making his videos, and the negative comments scared him. But he eventually started seeing those haters as people who helped him make money for Akari. The memory helps him control his emotions, and he manages to restrain his flame to conserve his power, allowing him to defeat the 100 spirits. Azaki knows that Kuru turned the crowd against Soji to push him forward, and he thinks they will make a great team, but a teacher named Nanzo releases even stronger spirits since he hates Soji. Everyone becomes worried, but he easily destroys them, and the machine stops as he sets a new record of 161 spirits. After that, Soji attends the classes at the academy, but he's surprised that they need to study normal subjects. He thanks Kuru for helping him, and Kuru isn't happy that he passed out after the test, but a girl named Kiyomi notes that anyone with offensive powers has a reckless personality. Kuru doesn't like being in the same category as Soji, so they get into an argument, and Azaki tells everyone about their new mission. He wonders who to send with Soji, but he notices Kiyomi and Kuru arguing, so he tells them they will team up with Soji. We see Kei after he kills people in a cinema, and he notes that he's sad, because they erased Akari just as she was born. His friend Garen tells him to forget about her, since it's already been 8 days, and he notes that they finally found Soji, which makes Kei happy. At night, Soji's team arrives at the place where they need to exorcise a spirit, but Azaki shows up in a disguise, and notes that they need to keep a low profile. But a group of girls finds him charming, and they drag him off to have dinner with them. Kakiko tells everyone they detected spirit signals, and she thinks they might be dealing with a ghost account nexus. But Soji has no idea what that is, so Kuru explains that ghost accounts will be erased if they don't recharge periodically, which is why electronic stores become hotspots of paranormal activity. Kiyomi wonders why she was placed on the same team as them, and Kuru notes that he also isn't happy with their team, telling her Azaki must be doing it for his amusement. Kiyomi wants to leave, because her favorite streamer Kuya will start his stream in about 2 hours. She thinks he'll forget her if she doesn't send a super chat, but Soji wonders if it's more important than the mission, so she tells him it's a big deal. Kakiko tells them their mission is to clear all the ghost accounts in the building, and notes that only low-level spirits are inside, but she still tells them to be careful. They enter the building, and Kiyomi walks through the aisles, but a ghost suddenly appears behind her. She dodges its attack and pulls goo out of her phone, which attaches to her arm, and transforms into a pistol. She pins the ghost down with her goo, and Kuru tells Soji that she has no right to call him strange, since she's a clingy fangirl obsessed with Kuya. He notes that she's been banned from his profile multiple times, since she leaves toxic comments, but she creates new accounts to continue stalking him. Kiyomi tells them she isn't a stalker, and explains that she's in love with Kuya, but Kuru warns Soji to be careful how he uses his phone, since it has a major effect on how their powers work. They work together to defeat the other spirits, which amazes Soji, and he realizes that exorcism is about teamwork. A ghost appears behind them, so Soji jumps in and destroys it, but they're angry since his demon flame could have killed them. We see thieves in the store, and we learn that they broke in while everyone was busy with the evacuation, but a spirit suddenly attacks them. On the other side, Kiyomi notes that she never wanted to be an exorcist, but explains that it's the only thing she's good at, and mentions that she needs money to send super chats to Kuya. She uses her goo gun to immobilize the ghosts, which allows Kuru to finish them off, and she notes that he's a talented attacker even though she doesn't like him. She explains that they don't need another attack-type exorcist in their class, especially not someone like Soji, who could kill them with one touch. They reach the top floor, where they find the thieves, and Kiyomi sees the evil spirit, so she fires her goo to restrain it. Kuru smashes it with his hammer, but it immediately heals, so he realizes it has a curse. He tells Kiyomi they need to escape, but the spirit breaks free and grabs onto her. Kuru slams it with his hammer again, but it has no effect, and the spirit sends him flying. Soji asks him why the spirit is so powerful, so he explains that ghost accounts can have special abilities, which are known as curses. He notes that spirits can become mid to high level threats if they have curses, so the exorcists usually form a dedicated team before engaging one of them, but he thinks they stand no chance in their current condition. The ghost breaks Kiyomi's arm and slams her into the ground, which knocks her out, and Kuru tells Soji to run, since his blue flame will only get in the way. Kuru launches his hammers at the spirit, but it has no effect, and the spirit prepares to kill Kiyomi. Soji throws a bear covered in his demon flame, which causes the ghost to drop her, and Soji notes that he can't leave them, because exorcism is all about teamwork. They hide on a lower floor, where Kuru grabs Soji's arm while his flames are active, but nothing happens, so he realizes that the flame's effects are reversed when a human wields it. They notice that the ghost's hand hasn't healed after he used his flames on it, so they come up with a plan to defeat it. Soji attacks it from behind, and leaves an opening for Kuru to land hammer strikes, but it suddenly spins around, and slams Soji into the wall. He realizes he's in danger and gets an adrenaline rush, and as he dodges its next attack, he throws another flaming toy at it, but the ghost avoids it and grabs onto his leg. Kuru rushes to save him, but Kiyomi shoots her goo at it, and we learn that she's angry since Kuya's stream has already started, and the ghost broke her streak of being the first to send a super chat. She tells the others to finish it, so they attack it with everything they've got, but it starts to tear through her goo. She struggles to keep it restrained, but another girl's super chat announcement comes through, so she becomes enraged. She squeezes the ghost even tighter, while Soji and Kuru attack it together, and they manage to exorcise it. Soji notes that he had fun, and accepts that even though he became a rage baiter for his sister, he also enjoyed it. He thinks he's trash, and Kuru agrees with him, but notes that trash tends to make a good exorcist. As they prepare to leave, Soji senses a presence, so he turns around, but he sees blood coming out of Kiyomi and Kuru's eyes, and Kei suddenly appears. Soji loses his mind as he sees memories of Akari, and he charges in, but his attacks have no effect, and Kei wonders if that's the best he can do. He collapses as his eyes start to bleed, and he pushes himself to get up, because he needs to avenge Akari. Kei thinks Soji will turn into a ghost after he kills him, since he has such a strong tie to the world, and Kei prepares to finish him off, but Azaki suddenly protects him with a gust of wind. He introduces himself as an exorcist and Soji's teacher, which excites Kei, but Azaki checks on the others, and assures Soji that his friends aren't dead. He wakes them up, but Azaki starts to cry, because he feels guilty for leaving them alone to fight a mid-level spirit. He blames himself for their suffering, but Soji notices Kei charging his flame to burn them all, so Azaki creates a barrier around them. Soji is shocked to see it, so Kuru explains that it's a special device that keeps ghosts away for 3 minutes, by blocking electromagnetic waves. Azaki praises Soji for standing his ground against Kei, and tells his students to stay inside the barrier, while he goes to face Kei himself. Azaki summons a koi fish, which he uses to send Kei flying, and he creates a powerful splash of water to attack him. Kei is unaffected, and thinks killing Azaki would create an even stronger connection between Soji and the world, which will surely turn him into a ghost. Kei launches multiple fire blasts to burn Azaki, but he dodges all of them and launches a counterattack, and Soji wonders what kind of cyberkinesis he's using. Kuru notes that older exorcists like Azaki don't use cyberkinesis, which is why they struggle against digital spirits, but Azaki is running his spiritual power through a digital converter to make his attacks effective. But his eyes start to bleed, which worries Soji, but Kuru tells him to stay calm, because if Kei were just a regular ghost, Azaki could have already erased him. Kuru reveals that when analog powers are converted through the digital converter, they drop by 90%, which means Azaki is fighting with only 10% of his true strength. Kei starts to overpower him, but he smiles as he summons 2 more fish, and attacks Kei with all 3 of them. Kuru reveals that Azaki is a legendary exorcist, who made his name at a young age, when he defeated a Calamity-class demon and earned the title of a living legend. Soji realizes his teacher is an actual legend, but Kuru notes that Azaki retired from active duty and devoted himself to raising the next generation. He knows he can't afford to embarrass himself, and he continues to attack Kei, but he suddenly disappears, as Garen pulls him back into the internet and tells him his battery is running low. Kei is disappointed that as a ghost account, he can only stay in the real world for a short time, but Garen assures him that it will be solved once the ghost world is complete. Azaki tells the students that Kei was fighting in power saver mode, so Kuru thinks they missed a chance to defeat him, but Azaki is just glad they're all safe, and Soji tells him he wants to become as strong as him. At the school, the officials hold a meeting to discuss Kei, and they learn that his account is still active, but those who follow him end up dead, so people treat him like an urban legend. They ask Azaki why Kei appeared, so he explains that Kei came for Soji, since he plans to turn him into a ghost account, and Nanzo thinks they should get rid of Soji. Azaki notes that his flames are harmless to humans, and he's sure that Soji isn't a spy, because Kei attacked him earlier, so killing him would count as murder. Yubami agrees with Azaki, but asks him what he'll do if a situation comes where they need to eliminate Soji, so he notes that he'll kill Soji himself, but he doesn't think it would ever come to that. Soji and Kuru head to the nurse's office, where Soji is surprised to see that Kiyomi has completely healed, but she tells him to stop staring at her. The nurse Mina tells them to stop arguing, and she takes a picture of Soji with her phone, so that she can use her cyberkinesis to heal him. He's embarrassed because he was in terrible shape the last time he came there, so she must have undressed him and took a picture of his whole body to treat him, but she explains that it was for medical purposes. The rest of their classmates come to greet them, but they aren't in the mood to relax, because they want to continue training so that they can defeat Kay. But Mina tells them to check their phone batteries, and they realize they're nearly out of spiritual energy. So she tells them they need to rest, reminding them that they will pass out if they keep using their cyberkinesis, so they decide to do physical training instead. Soji realizes he can't fight at his full potential, because his physical strength can't keep up with his cyberkinesis, so he asks Kuru to train him. But Kuru is busy with his phone, and mentions that he hates everyone. Renri tells Soji to wait, because Kuru is busy with his daily routine of posting hate comments, and after he's done, Kuru tells Soji he should drink tea, because it calms the mind. Soji wonders if he was ever part of a gang, because he noticed a tattoo on his arm, so Kuru tells him not to judge him just because of his tattoo. Renri mentions that Kuru was part of a gang in high school, and he shows them an old photo, so Kuru notes that Renri was also in that same gang, but he explains that he just followed Kuru, and tells Soji they've been friends since they were kids. Kuru asks Soji why he came, so he notes that he wants to learn hand-to-hand combat, but Kuru sends him to Hiyori instead, since she's an expert in it. Soji finds Hiyori on a shelf and tries to talk to her, but she doesn't respond, so he looks around and finds multiple copies of her, which freaks him out. The real Hiyori appears behind him, and explains that Denmi is the Academy's official mascot and best-selling merchandise, while her cyberkinesis allows her to remotely control the dolls, revealing that her real body is in her dorm. He asks her to train him, and she immediately agrees to do it, because she always wanted to fight him. They head to the training ground, where Hiyori tells Naruhiko to bring out a large doll, and she asks him to serve as referee. Soji wonders how he can fight such a cute doll, but Hiyori launches a barrage of attacks and shows him no mercy. Naruhiko tells Soji to take her seriously, because she's an esports champion, and we learn that she enjoys playing fighting games. Soji becomes serious and channels his blue flame, so Hiyori also decides to go all out, and shifts into the larger doll. He thinks she's an easy target, but as he gets closer, she surprises him with her speed, and lands multiple hits. She explains that she competes at a pro gaming level, where every moment matters, so she knows how to predict her opponent's next move through their breathing and rhythm. Soji decides to copy her, and he manages to dodge her attacks, which surprises Naruhiko. He blocks her kick, but she tells him not to get cocky, because he still lacks something important. She finishes him off with her special move, and tells him it's what he's lacking, so he accepts that she's strong, and asks her to be his teacher. She reveals that only a few people can block her attacks in that form, which means he has potential, and she knows that he'll get even stronger. After that, they head to the nurse's office, where Mina heals them, but she tells them to go easier on each other, since she needs time to help Yabami with her anti-aging treatment. On his way to the bath, Soji wonders what the real Hiyori looks like, but he runs into Kiyomi and a shy pink-haired girl. Kiyomi reveals that she's the real Hiyori, which shocks Soji, because she looks nothing like her doll. He tries to talk to her, but she runs away and returns in her doll form, to hit him for bumping into her. Kiyomi explains that Hiyori is an introvert, who doesn't like interacting with others, and she tells Soji she looks forward to their next training session, which makes him happy. He receives a message from Azaki, who invites him to a meeting, where they discuss their strategy for exorcising Kei. Azaki notes that they've already failed to kill him twice, and most of the students who tried didn't make it, so they want to go fully prepared. Kakiko notes that the intelligence division is analyzing Kei's past movements using their server, and explains that they will carry out their mission the moment they find him, which will probably be at the end of the year. Soji thinks 2 months will be enough to train, but Azaki reveals that first years aren't allowed to fight high or extreme level ghost accounts, so they won't send him to fight Kei. He notes that he'll go even if it gets him expelled, so Kuru mentions that a student can participate if they have cyberkinesis skills essential to the mission, or if they have already proven themselves. Soji wonders how he can do that, so Azaki tells him about the annual competition between Class A and Class B, which is the perfect chance for him to demonstrate his abilities. He decides to prove himself in that event, and they all start to train for the competition, but Soji suddenly runs into a spirit. Naruhiko creates a barrier to block it, and Soji thinks he's amazing, but he can't hear Soji, so he gets the wrong idea and thinks Soji is making fun of his abilities. His barrier breaks since he can't focus on the music, and the spirit continues to attack them, so they run away. Rinri joins them and leads them into better positions, which allows them to surround the spirits. Soji wonders how he did that, so Hiyori explains that his cyberkinesis works like a CCTV camera, and he can create windows from photos he's taken with his phone. They defeat the spirits, and Azaki thinks they have improved a great deal since their last battle, but when he sees Soji calling Hiyori his master, he becomes jealous and starts to cry. Rinri thinks Soji is a great addition to their class, but they notice that he burns through his spirit power too fast, which eventually slows him down. Soji thinks he should only summon his flames when necessary, but Kuru explains that cyberkinesis burns the most energy when it's activated, so it might be better to just leave it running. His classmates decide to call it a day, but he wants to keep training, so he goes on a solo session. He takes out his sister's hairpin, but he runs out of spiritual energy and collapses, but a boy named Tsurugi catches him. He thanks Tsurugi for catching the hairpin, and reveals that it's important to him since it's his sister's favorite, but Tsurugi suddenly burns it. He reveals that he's also a ragebaiter who enjoys the suffering of others, and notes that he likes Soji's reaction, so Soji becomes angry and prepares to fight. Tsurugi wants to bully him even more, but Hiyori suddenly arrives, and tells Soji he's a master troll who enjoys bullying others. She reveals that he's also part of Class A, and their class head Wagari tells him to rejoin their training, but she warns Soji to stay away from them since they aren't friendly. They prepare to leave, and Soji charges at Tsurugi from behind, but a Class A student named Eru works with Wagari to take him down. Kuru suddenly arrives with the others, and he clashes with Wagari, telling him to stay away from Soji. Kei is sad since he's alone again, and he wonders what Soji is up to, so Garam tells him to cheer up, and notes that they're slowly gathering all the resources they need to make his dream come true. Meanwhile, Soji uses his flames to push himself up, and he chases after Tsurugi, while Wagari notes that they can't tell a ragebaiter what to do. Kuru agrees they're all the same, but he thinks Tsurugi is worse than Soji, and a boy from Class A named Owada is jealous that Eru has a crush on Soji. Tsurugi dodges Soji's attack, and he's impressed by the blue flames, but he shows Soji he can summon his fire without using his phone. He tells Soji they won the previous term's competition, and notes that Class B is full of incompetent students, so Soji becomes angry. He grabs Tsurugi's burning hand, which makes Tsurugi excited, but Wagari interrupts them as he cuts the surrounding trees. He apologizes for Tsurugi's behavior, but he thinks Class B is trash, since they accepted a demon flame user. Kuru is confident in Soji's abilities, and thinks they will win because of him, while Tsurugi tells him they shouldn't hold back the next time they face each other. After that, they visit Mina's office again, and she reminds them to take care of themselves. On his way out, Soji runs into Azaki, who tells him his friends are preparing for the competition, and he asks Azaki to help him train. They all train hard in the following days, and even prepare a strategy for the upcoming match, while Class A just relaxes since they're confident they'll win. Yubami and the teachers discuss whether Class B has any chance to redeem itself, because only Kuru performed well in the previous term, and their defensive cyberkinesis failed to function. Yubami wonders if Soji will bring them good or bad fortune, but we see someone send a message to Kei that his wish will be fulfilled soon. On the day of the competition, Naruhiko is nervous since Class A is full of offensive cyberkinesis users who kept chasing him in the last competition. Soji wonders why he's still an exorcist if he's scared of everything, but Hiyori mentions that everyone has their reasons, and Soji wonders if her real self didn't come. Kiyomi points at the cardboard in the back where the real Hiyori is hiding, and she explains that she joined them since the doll requires less spirit power when she's nearby. Soji is excited for the match because he wants to try out his new move, but they're surprised to learn that the competition will take place in a replica of Kusatsu. We learn that they have Mina in the area, so the participants are allowed to harm each other, but killing means instant disqualification. Kakiko notes that Azaki will join them through video conference, and he tells them to do their best, as he mentions that everyone has their eyes on the battle, since they're being evaluated for potential use against Kei. Kuru promises not to embarrass him, but he tells them it's okay if they lose, and notes he really loves them, so he doesn't want them to die when they go on dangerous missions. Meanwhile, Nanzo tells Class A to win at all costs, and he reminds them to stick to their plan of one target per person. Tsurugi tells everyone he'll go after Soji, but another student named Ban also wants to fight Soji because blue is his favorite color. Wagari tells everyone to just target whoever they meet first, but we see that Class B is ready to take them on, and Renri thanks Soji for standing up for their class. He mentions that they remained silent because they were saving it for the big day, and as the competition begins, Kuru instantly splits his hammer. They fly straight toward Class A, so Ban creates a massive statue of ice to block them, and his friends think it's beautiful, but they wonder how much spirit energy he used to create the statue. He reveals that it took 50% of his charge, which angers them, but Wagari launches a counterattack, so Class B hides behind Naruhiko's barrier. Kuru notes that Wagari is a genius who has been on several high-level missions, and he's even defeated mid-level spirits on his own, so they should run when they see him. Class A can't find their opponents, but Wagari spots the moving cardboard, and he thinks Hiyori is hiding inside, so he follows it into a narrow alley. He cuts it open, but realizes that only her doll is inside it, and we learn that they plan to ambush him while the rest of his classmates are far away. They attack him at the same time, but he manages to defend himself. Renri notes that Wagari's teammates are on their way, so Kuru realizes they need to defeat him before the others arrive, and he launches his hammers at him. He easily blocks them, but Kiyomi suddenly freezes his hands, and Soji kicks him in the head. The Academy's teachers watch the contest, as Yabami notes that she's impressed by Class B's teamwork, and she thinks Soji has ignited a new spark in them. Wagari stabs through the goo, and Soji thinks he took his own life, but Kuru knows that he's using his cyberkinesis, which allows him to cut only his chosen target. He unleashes a deadly slash, which slices through everything in the area, so Naruhiko protects everyone with his barrier, but Hiyori isn't able to reach him in time. Wagari realizes he almost killed them since he lost his cool, so he takes a breath to calm down, and tells them he'll only cut their hands and feet. Renri notices that Wagari has blocked their escape route, and Soji thinks they'll be okay as long as they have Naruhiko's barrier, but he realizes it's gone since Naruhiko can't focus. Wagari tells Naruhiko to leave the academy, and thinks he doesn't have what it takes to be a successful exorcist, since he can't even conquer his fears. His friends become angry and tell Wagari he doesn't know Naruhiko, so he slashes them with his cyberkinesis. But they suddenly disappear, and Renri reveals that he used his windows to teleport them away. The teachers are amazed by his ability, but they think Class B is in trouble since they got split up, and his friends don't understand what happened because he didn't tell them about his powers. Kuru realizes that none of them can beat Wagari in a one-on-one fight, so he thinks they need to set up another ambush to take him out, but Wagari suddenly follows him through the window. He reveals that his family taught him to be a perfectionist, and notes that he can't stand Kuru and his friends, because he thinks all of them are flawed. He explains that he chose Kuru's windows since he hates him, and Kuru charges in with his hammer, but Wagari dodges all of his attacks, and cuts through even his clothes. He tells Kuru to stop acting righteous, because he's wicked by nature, and notes that he should be like Tsurugi, who doesn't go against his nature and acts like a true villain. They continue to clash, and Wagari can't stand to look at Kuru, since he reminds him of the masses who can't accept their mistakes. We learn that Wagari started an advice blog, where people tell him about their problems, but he gives them blunt advice, since he can't stand their nonsense. He thinks Kuru is just like them, and he slices through his shoulder, telling him to run away as he did in the past, but he refuses to give up. Tsurugi finds Soji and attacks him with his flames, but Soji jumps away, telling him he'll make him pay for insulting his friends. Tsurugi reveals that he can sense people's negative emotions, so he knows that Wagari is destroying Kuru, and he thinks Kuru will run and beg for his life, but Soji tells him it will never happen. Kuru fights back, but Wagari easily overpowers him, and he falls into the water. Wagari tells him to admit defeat and take back his warped idea of righteousness, but he refuses to do it and prepares to fight on. We see Renri as he meets Awada, who wants to defeat him to impress Eru, and he summons his cyber beast Teddy Kong. In a flashback, we learn that Awada always loved animals, but he couldn't afford to feed them since his family was poor, but Nanzo asks him about the virtual pet flying around his house. Nanzo realizes he was the one who summoned it, so he took him to the academy, where everyone is impressed by his ability to summon Teddy Kong. Nanzo realizes his cyberkinesis is extremely rare, so he invited him to join the academy, and told him he would get paid if he became an exorcist. We return to the present, as Awada mentions that Teddy Kong can crush boulders, so he thinks Renri doesn't stand a chance, but Renri is determined to find Kuru. In another flashback, we see Kuru as he meets Renri, who has a little brother named Rhoda, and their parents want them to awaken their psychokinesis. We learn that their families are toxic, since their relatives tortured them in the name of training, and Kuru complains about his parents' treatment. Years later, Renri's relatives think he and his brother are failures, since they still haven't awakened their psychokinesis. Their father decides to starve them for 3 days, since he thinks it will help them awaken their powers, and as they're locked up in their room, Rhoda tells Renri to take a good look at his face and never forget about him. After 3 days, Rhoda starves to death, but their father thinks he's pathetic since he was killed by a basic training ritual. Their relatives behave as if he never existed, and his father tells Renri to pretend that he never had a brother, but he doesn't want to forget about Rhoda. At night, Renri realizes that the bars on his window are being twisted, and he sees Kuru outside. He tells Renri to run away with him, since he's fed up with the way exorcist families treat their kids, so Renri escapes through the window, and they dye their hair so that their families won't recognize them. They join a gang and enjoy their life together, but after some time, Renri starts to cry, since he can't remember what Rhoda looks like. Kuru gives him a phone, and tells him to take pictures of the people he doesn't want to forget, since human memories fade with time, but photos can stay with them forever. He takes a picture of Kuru, and starts to treat him like family, so when he decides to return to the exorcist world, Renri follows him without hesitation. Back in the present, Awada orders Teddy Kong to attack Renri, but he traps it in a window, and hits Awada with a metal pipe. Nanzo panics as he gets knocked out, and Renri knows that Kuru is in danger, so he rushes to look for him. Kiyomi learns that Kuru is in trouble, so she thinks about helping him, but Eris suddenly grabs her from behind, and notes that she won't let her save him. Kiyomi fires her gu to break free, and we learn that she hates Eru, because she changes her appearance to attract men, but she loses interest when they start to like her back. She activates her cyberkinesis, which allows her to use the powers of the man who fell in love with her, and she picks an MMA fighter. Kiyomi uses her gu to block the attacks, but she gets pushed back, and Eru explains that she won't let Kiyomi reach Kuru, since he might fall in love with her after she saves him. She blows Eru away, but she takes Kiyomi with her, and they both crash into a building. Kiyomi uses her gu to break her fall, but she realizes that Eru cut her clothes to escape, and we see that she's now using the powers of a beautician. She rips Kiyomi's clothes, and uses the MMA fighter's powers to beat her up, telling her she'll ruin her face so that Kuru won't like her. We learn that she's attracted to his appearance, and she also finds Soji cute, but Kiyomi tells her she can't even stick to one man. She explains that she was serious about all of the men who loved her, but notes that she's honest to whatever moves her heart, and she tells Kiyomi she's just a stalker. She becomes angry hearing this, and starts to strangle Eru, but she shows Kiyomi a picture of Kuya, telling her she had a good time with him. Kiyomi's grip weakens as she loses morale, and Eru uses a sumo wrestler's powers to push her back, but she immediately recovers, as she realizes that the picture was photoshopped. She punches Eru in the face, and notes that she still remembers when Kuya posted his selfie, telling her she wished she were in the same bed as him. In a flashback, we learn that Kiyomi's classmates didn't like her because they thought she was a spoiled brat, but her love for Kuya kept her going. We see that she accidentally hurt a classmate when her power awakened, and she has no idea what happened, so Azaki shows her his fish. He explains that they're the only ones who can see it, because they have special powers, and he notes that he can teach her how to use cyberkinesis. Back in the present, Eru and Kiyomi continue to clash, but they both realize they're about to collapse since they're low on battery, so they throw their phones away. Kiyomi charges at Eru, and they fall into the hot spring, but they both reach their limit. They praise each other's skills, and finally come to terms, but the teachers note that their fight ended in a draw. They realize that Class B is in the lead, since they already took out 2 of their opponents, but a teacher reports that there's a ghost account in the area, so Yabami orders the staff to look into it. We cut to Tsurugi, who struggles to hit Soji, and he wonders what Soji did during the last 2 weeks. He tells Tsurugi he needs to try harder, so he charges in, but Soji grabs onto him and throws him away. He starts to beat him up, but Tsurugi seems to be enjoying it, and he sees an opening, so he grabs onto Soji and activates his flames. Soji nullifies it with his blue flames, and he smashes Tsurugi to the ground, asking him if he wants to give up. He notes that he doesn't feel good, since he can't feel Soji's hatred for him, and he reveals that he wants people to hate him, since he thinks there's no difference between love and hate. Tsurugi reminds Soji how he burned his sister's hairpin, but Soji doesn't care, and he jumps up into the air. He uses his special move, which is a flame-powered kick with the power of gravity, and Tsurugi screams as Soji attacks him. We return to Wagari, who can't believe Kuru is still fighting, since he obviously doesn't stand a chance. Renri arrives, and tells Kuru he came to save him, but he suddenly stabs him instead. We learn that a student from Class A named Kiri used his hypnosis app to control Renri, and told him to attack Kuru. Renri returns to normal, but he can't believe he stabbed Kuru, and Wagari thinks it's over. He prepares to leave, but Kuru gets back up, and tells him he's not finished yet. Kiri uses his hypnosis app to control him, and orders him to dance until he dies, but Kiri is startled as he suddenly screams. She starts to dance, and Wagari knows Kuru was able to reflect it since Kiri's technique was sloppy. He prepares to finish what they started, but Renri realizes he can no longer use his windows, and he's worried that Kuru might die, so he tells Azaki to declare him out of the fight. Kuru refuses to surrender, and he knows he's low on battery, but everyone's surprised as he takes out his trump card. They see that it's a burning hammer, and we learn that the reason he hates rage baiters is because he doesn't like the kind of person he used to be. We go back to when Kuru was in his gang, and we learn that he joined to have fun, since he wanted to release his pent-up emotions. But one evening, Azaki invites Kuru and Renri to join the academy, and they explain that they aren't interested, so the gangsters tell him to get lost. He completely ignores them, so one of them tries to teach him a lesson, but Azaki smashes him to the ground, and Renri can't believe he came to scout them. But he notices the tattoo on Kuru's shoulder, wondering if it's his way of saying he'll never be an exorcist. The ladies think Azaki is handsome, and they invite him to have fun with them, but Kuru starts to walk away while he's distracted. He tells Kuru his mother wants to see him, so he recalls how he didn't want to leave her behind, because she was the only one in her family who was kind to him. She eventually passes away, so Kuru returns home, but his relatives blame him for her death. They tell him he's a disgrace to their family, since everyone saw how he raised hell in a restaurant, and he can't believe someone recorded the incident and posted it online. The netizens flame him in the comments, and his relatives tell him his mother's health declined after she saw it, so he feels guilty for her death. He recalls how she told him to be a good man, so he decides to join the academy, and Azaki welcomes him back to the exorcist world. Kuru starts to bash ragebaiters online, and wants to stop them from making mistakes, but we learn that he hates them since he used to be one of them. We return to the present, as Wagari tells Kuru he's finally showing his true colors, and he attacks with his sword, but Kuru uses his flames to protect himself. Wagari realizes he can't get past his flames, but he refuses to admit defeat, since he put in a lot of effort to get stronger. Kuru recalls how Wagari never ran away, while he didn't even bother to fight him since he thought he could never win, but he wonders why he's now desperate to come out on top. He sees Soji as he jumps to the sky, and realizes he was able to control his flames, since he never ran away from them. Wagari reminds Kuru about his past, but he finally accepts that he made mistakes, and notes that he learned from his experience. He hits Wagari with a barrage of attacks, which knocks him out, and he notes that he'll never forget his desire to do things right. We return to Soji, as he shatters the ground with his ultimate move, but he's amazed that Tsurugi didn't run away. He realizes he's no match for Soji, so he admits defeat, and apologizes for burning Akari's hairpin. Soji forgives him, but notes that he'll kill Tsurugi if he messes with his classmates again. We see the staff monks as they investigate the ghost account signal, but they realize it's getting stronger, so they think they need to do something about it. Renri apologizes for stabbing Kuru, who tells him not to worry, and reminds him that Wagari would have wiped them out if he didn't use his windows. Soji joins them, and realizes they beat Wagari, but they tell him they're also out of the fight, since they're almost out of battery. Renri thanks Soji for helping Kuru accept his past, and they realize that Ban is the only one left in Class A, so Soji wants to learn about him. Renri notes that he's extremely vain, and we learn that he uploads strange pictures online, so that his followers can see how beautiful he is. The mods freeze his account because of it, and Kuru thinks he's an idiot, but admits that his powers are amazing. Soji knows that his cyberkinesis allows him to create ice, and he isn't sure if he can beat him, but Kuru thinks Ban is already low on spirit power since he created a giant sculpture. Dan realizes he's the only one left, but he suddenly removes his clothes and posts a selfie, thinking he'll get frozen again when the mods see it. We see Mina with the eliminated students, and Kiyomi thinks her class will win the contest, but Ban's classmates think he can carry them to victory since his powers are amazing. Nanzo is upset since his students are losing, and he recalls how Kei used the blue flames to kill his brother, who happened to be Azaki's best friend, but he notes that Soji isn't Kei. Soji sees Ban and tells him he's the only one left, but he shows Soji the monks he froze and notes that it's a work of art. He isn't satisfied with his work, so he shatters the monks, and Soji wonders why he would do that. He suddenly cries tears of blood and notes that he finally has an account that can't be frozen since Kei turned him into a ghost account. Everyone realizes he's already dead, and he turns into an ice angel, telling Soji to look at his perfect body. He summons a blizzard to freeze the area, and we see Kei watching them as he mentions that his dream has finally come true. Nanzo can't believe Kei turned Ban into a ghost account, but Azaki notes that he wanted it for himself, and Kakiko reports that she can't enter the fake Kusatsu because of the blizzard. She thinks Ban is a high-level ghost account, since his powers are on another level, but Soji prepares to take him on. Ban summons Ice Hands to restrain him and prepares to finish him off, but Soji uses his flames to break free. He notes that his flames are effective against ghost accounts, but he struggles to hit Ban, who creates clones to beat him up. In a flashback, Ban celebrates as he reaches 8,000 followers, but he thinks his looks will fade with time, and he wants his beauty to last forever. During their class pictorial, Ban covers his classmates as he makes a strange pose, and a teacher tells him to stop acting like a star, but he tells the photographer to take a solo picture of him. Everyone realizes he's a weirdo, so Wagari thinks they should remove him from their class, but Nanzo explains that he believes in him. During one of their missions, Ban sees the body of a woman, and he realizes that humans can't escape death, so his beauty isn't everlasting. He asks his followers why beauty must be lost with time, and he starts to question if it even matters, but he realizes that they don't understand him. He suddenly receives a message from Kei, who knows that he wants his beauty to be eternal, but he recalls how Nanzo told him to report if Kei messages him. He thinks Kei is the only one who can understand him, so he chooses not to report him and starts to talk with him instead. The night before the event, Kei asks Ban if he wants to join his side, and he thinks Kei can make his beauty last forever, so he agreed to meet him during the contest. We return to the present as Soji crashes to the ground, but Ban knows he's still alive because he's surrounded his body with his flame barrier. We learn that it prevents him from freezing to death, but Ban knows that it drains his spirit power, and he notes that he has evolved since he now has unlimited power. We see their classmates watching the fight, and they hear Ban as he mentions that he'll kill all of the first years. So they realize they need to exercise him, but they think they can't do anything since they're low on spirit power. We return to Ban, as he notes that he never considered his classmates as his friends, and Soji realizes he's the worst student in Class A. He prepares to attack him with his ultimate move, but Ban freezes his legs and wraps his chains around him. He repeatedly smashes him against a rock and throws him away, but he gets back up and notes that he won't lose to someone who abandoned his team. His flames suddenly disappear as his phone shuts down because of the extreme cold, and he starts to freeze, so Ban thinks it's all over for him. He creates a giant block of ice to attack him, and Soji is about to be crushed to death, but Naruhiko suddenly arrives to save him. He apologizes for being late and explains that he needed time to regain his composure, but he can't believe Ban turned into a dead account. Ban attacks them with his feathers, but Naruhiko's barrier stops them, and he tells Soji they won't freeze while they're inside, so he should use the chance to warm up his phone. He thanks Naruhiko for saving him, but recalls that he needs to focus on maintaining his barrier, and he suddenly imagines what would happen if he fails. He starts to freak out, so he does his best to concentrate and increases the volume of his music. In a flashback, Naruhiko closes his ears as he watches his parents argue, and he's afraid of what might happen if their fight escalates. He meets a struggling musician who happens to live next door, and he notes that he heard Naruhiko's parents argue, so he gives him an iPod to help keep his mind at ease. Naruhiko uses it to block out the noise, but one day, Azaki suddenly visits his house, and he notices that Naruhiko's parents are in trouble. They beg him to help them, because an invisible force pinned them to the wall, and he knows that Naruhiko awakened his powers. Kakiko asks Azaki if he has a spirit power cutter, but he explains that he doesn't, and he realizes that Naruhiko is in terrible shape because his parents neglected him. He's able to walk past the barrier, taking out Naruhiko's headphones, and tells him that he's now safe. His parents blame him, but Azaki stares them down and decides to take him in. He becomes Naruhiko's father figure and teaches him how to use his powers, but he still struggles with loud noises, so Azaki gives him new headphones. He decides to join the academy when he's of age, and we learn that he still wants to become an exorcist even though he's a coward, since he wants Azaki to be proud of him. Back in the present, Naruhiko bangs his head as he listens to his music, and his barrier doesn't disappear. Soji's phone finally turns on, and he charges in with Naruhiko, but we see that he's about to run out of power. Naruhiko pushes him toward Ban, and Soji attacks with all of his power, causing his body to shatter, but he realizes it was just a decoy. Ban attacks him while he's wide open, but Kiyomi's goo protects him, and the other students join the fight. Kuru explains that they recovered their spirit power by using Kiri's hypnosis to have a 10-minute nap, and Ban launches his feathers again, but Naruhiko blocks them with his shield. Wagari admits that his class lost the battle, and asks Class B to help them exorcise Ban, so they all prepare to take him on. Owada summons his cyber beast, and Era copies his technique, while Kuru tells Soji to conserve his power so that he can burn Ban when he gets the chance. Tsurugi keeps him warm as they ride one of the cyber beasts, and we see that Kuru and Wagari are on the one Era summoned, but Ban tells them their wings look pathetic. He attacks them with his feathers, so the beasts dodge them, and Kiyomi takes aim, but she can't get a clear shot. Kuru lunges at Ban, who realizes he's wide open, so he launches his feather, but Kuru steps on Wagari's slash to jump again. They attack Ban from both sides, and they shatter one of his wings, which makes him angry. Wagari notes that he always liked Ban, since he's talented and beautiful, but he blows everyone away, and notes that Wagari should understand his art. Kuru and Wagari prepare to attack again, but their cyber beast suddenly disappears, as Era runs out of spirit power. They fall to the ground, but Tsurugi suddenly jumps toward Ban, and tells him he has always hated him because of his attitude. He starts to burn his wings, so Ban stabs him with his feather, but he enjoys the pain and strengthens his flames. Ban's wing melts away, and Tsurugi knows he betrayed them since he wanted to, so he tells him to go to hell. Soji activates his flames, and Kiyomi thinks it's too early to attack since she still hasn't restrained Ban, but Kuru tells him to go for it anyway. He charges in with his burning fist, but Ban dodges his attack, and he starts to freeze, as he realizes he's screwed up. The giant sculpture suddenly starts to move, so Ban thinks it has come to life, but everyone realizes that Hiyori is controlling it. We learn that she can control it since it has a human shape, and she uses the last of her spirit power to order it to attack. But it suddenly crumbles, as she realizes it can't perform her movements because it's made of ice. Ban can't believe his masterpiece has been ruined, but Kiyomi restrains him while he's distracted, and Soji flies toward him, telling him he lost because he let go of his friends. He hits Ban with his rapid fire combo, and he knows that Ban hasn't been exorcised yet, but he realizes he's about to pass out, so he deactivates his flames. He lands on Kiyomi's goo, and Kuru tells him not to worry about Ban, since he's already on his last legs. Wagari asks him about Kei, so he notes that Kei promised to reward him, but he suddenly gets surrounded by blue flames. He thinks Kei is giving him power, but realizes he's actually about to meet his end, since Kei has decided to get rid of him. Wagari cuts him down, and explains that nobody will ever see him again, since his social media accounts will be deleted. Owada notes that he still has pictures of Ban on his phone, and explains that he will always remember him, since he'll always be a part of their class. He remembers the times that he spent with them during his final moments, so he tells them about Kei's goal to create a land of dead accounts, and apologizes for betraying them. Owada starts to cry, but Wagari tells him to stay strong, and notes that they were able to do their job as exorcists. After the battle, Nanzo and Azaki arrive in a helicopter, and they immediately praise their students for doing a good job, but Wagari wonders why they're so cheerful. Everyone welcomes them back when they return to the school, and Azaki explains that they have a feast whenever exorcists die in that line of work, to raise a glass to the dearly departed. Nanzo approaches Soji, and reveals that he's the leader of the group that wanted to get rid of him, but admits that they were wrong about him, so they apologize for not treating him well. Nanzo sees Wagari crying, so he cheers him up, and everyone enjoys the feast together. We cut to Kay, who notes that he's sad, since he wanted Ban to be in the promised land. But he's glad that he was able to see how much Soji has improved, and he tells Garen their new nation will be founded soon. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.